So would it actually work? Here's the chairman of the British Olympic Association, Lord Moynihan, speaking earlier, so talking about this idea of a reallocation of tickets.
Recognising the massive contribution the British public and those sports fans, the length and breadth of the country, have towards these Olympic Games and Team GB and the success of the team. And I just urge the organisers to look at every possible way of making sure that any unallocated seats or any seats that they identify are not going to be used get into the hands of British sports fans as soon as possible.
Obviously via those queues. So in a moment I'll ask you to queue or not to queue. Ed Parkinson is a director at Viagogo, Europe's largest online ticket marketplace, joins me now. Mr. Parkinson, can these schemes or that scheme work in your view?
Yes, it can. I do think it's a good idea. I mean, we see this very frequently at Viagogo across a wide range of sports events, that many of the best tickets, or some of the best tickets, do become available at the last minute because people can't use them for one reason or another. And if people don't turn up, and members of the Olympic family, and there may be legitimate reasons, there are definitely some solutions that can solve the problem. I mean, the very simplest might be, of course, to move people who've sat in the rafters and the cheaper seats down to the better seats. These people, they're in the venue, they've already travelled, as you say, they're in the event. That would be a simple way, but absolutely, having a list of people on standby, I think, makes a lot of sense. And you can see, as a starting point, perhaps just the families of the athletes who would be prepared to make that journey on the off chance if they hadn't been able to get tickets. And then people perhaps who've got Olympic Park tickets, people in the ground. There's plenty of people, I think, who would absolutely love and be prepared to wait on standby.
There's just the practical side of that, Ed Parkinson. Sorry to talk over you, and I hear exactly what you say, but if you filled up in the gods or the rafters, whatever you call it, and indeed Rebecca Adlington's sister, who I think his first name is Chloe, has been tweeting that she's absolutely delighted and had a fantastic day out, but they had to watch it up from the rafters, and it was very frustrating because there were rows and rows of seats in front of them that couldn't be filled. If I'm actually running the distribution or the seating of everyone, it's going to take me about 20 minutes to move them down, isn't it?
Well, I think it is possible. I mean, we see this happens quite a lot. I mean, in West End theatres and things, when the balcony's not full and the stalls are empty, people manage to do this for many live events across Britain and the world sort of every week. So I think it's not unheard of to do it, and I think it is practical. Yes, it might take 5 minutes, but people can move quietly, and I think it's worth it for the people who get those seats in the end.
As you heard about or saw photographs or possibly even attended an event over the weekend where there were rows and rows, if not thousands of empty seats, how did you respond and how surprised were you?
I'm not surprised there are a certain number of empty seats because it is the case that people's plans change at the last minute, and of course we all know that there's a large number of seats available to the Olympic family. I think perhaps what's more surprising is that we know this happened, as you just mentioned, it happened in previous games, but it's something we can plan for and should plan for, and I think it's very important that a plan is put in place. And perhaps even contacting all the members of the Olympic family, asking them for those events happening this week and next, which ones they may not turn up to, so perhaps tickets could even be put back on sale to members of the public, so they have that more certainty that they would get a seat if they did turn up.
Lastly, as Britons, we do love to queue. Do you think, though, that there would be a certain level of frustration if families did queue in some instances, perhaps for hours, and then got nothing?
Yes, of course, and I think people would have to go fully expecting that they may not get a ticket. But for a once-in-a-generation event like this, to see these athletes perform, I think many people would understand that and would accept it and would think it would be worthwhile. Ed Parkinson is director at Viagogo, Europe's largest online ticket marketplace. Thank you for your input today. And now the question over to you. Are you ready to queue or not to queue?